proposed fiscal 2024 budget. And here's how we're going to handle it today. Ms. Sapp is here to give us a presentation. And the way she's going to do it, she's going to take the general fund first and go through her presentation on the general fund. We will then take questions on the general fund, starting with the committee chairman and then moving around the table. And after we have exhausted the questions on the general fund, we will move on to the capital fund. Ms. Sapp again will give a presentation on the capital fund. We will take questions on the capital fund. And after that is exhausted, do you have a separate presentation on the convention center fund or not?
It goes with the capital.
Okay, then, so we'll take the questions on the capital fund and the convention fund at the same time. But please hold your questions until Ms. Sapp has completed her presentation. So we're going to turn it over to Ms. Sapp now to make a presentation on the general fund budget.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank the finance team, especially Relia Mallory, the cost center managers, the department heads, the chief of staff, and the mayor for their participation in the FY 2024 budget process. I would also like to thank Erin Briers for her graphic work in making the budget look presentable. It is very much a team effort. And finally, I would like to thank each of you for the time you have spent and will spend getting the budget passed. Now we will start the presentation. Okay. The FY 2024 budget is comprised of the general fund, the capital improvements fund, the convention center fund, and then it has select data from the internal service funds and enterprise funds subsidized by the general ledger. Slide 2 shows the general fund budget summary. Revenues, as you will see, include a carryover from surplus of $5,365,402. The general fund is giving capital improvements an extra $6.4 million, and so we needed to use this almost $4 million to fill the gap. You also see on this page that the 2% reserve required by Zogby amounted to $6,649,097. This amount is arrived at by total revenues and transfers in times 2%, and this is just a Zogby Act requirement. Total expenses and transfers out for FY 2024 in this budget are $331,171.42. This means that the 2 months reserve for FY 2024 will be $55,195,747, according to this budget. Next. The budget process is similar to what it has been for the past 10 years. We start with the cost center managers submitting their budgets. We have approximately 70 cost centers that have payroll, and everybody tells us what they need. Then the executive directors refine their budgets, and at level 3, the finance department balances the budget, because we cannot have budgets where revenues do not equal expenses. At level 4, the mayor approves the budget and is given to council, and at level 5, the council adopts the budget. So that's basically the process, but I wanted everybody to know that there's a lot of input from all sides for the budget. Okay. The changes between the structure of FY24 budget compared to the FY23 budget, we moved purchasing under finance. Several years ago, they had moved purchasing under administrative services, but the Zogby Act really requires it to be under finance, so it's just come home. Next. Page 5 is all the changes that were made to the performance contracts. The performance contracts increased $702,760 over the prior year. And it's all these changes, including we reduced Lad Peoples by 200,000, but we increased the Mobile Area Chamber of Commerce Workforce Transportation Pilot for $100,000. We increased Opportunity for Entertainers and Performing Arts, $30,000. We increased Events Mobile $140,000 over the adopted budget last year. It's in line with what the additional amount we gave them this year. McKinney Place increased $7,760. The Botanical Gardens was moved from CIP to the general fund. So it shows as an increase, but it's really just moving between funds. That's $150,000. The Mobile Sports Authority was increased $50,000. Ransom Ministries has been increased $100,000. HBCU was increased $150,000, and the Port City Classic was increased $175,000. So those are the differences between last year and this year regarding performance contracts. Next. Revenues are projected using monthly actuals between July 2022 and June 2023, with adjustments for known differences and annexation thrown in. So we are budgeting based on we will do as good as we have done for the last 12 months, but not better. This has been our assumption for the last several years, and it has worked well. We always do have concerns about a downturn in the economy, but right now, the economy is fairly strong, and so we've kept this assumption. In the 2024 budget, there is a 5% raise for city employees. No increase in healthcare costs. But the motor pool budget rental rates increased from $17.4 million in 2023 to $19.9 million in 2024. And on page 8, there is a detail of the motor pool funding. We don't have to go there now. We'll go there in a minute. There are canopy contracts in this budget of $1.56 million and mowing and ditch maintenance contracts of $3.78 million. These mowing and ditch maintenance contracts are in addition to the crews available for mowing and ditch maintenance. The cruise terminal is projected to be self-sufficient in FY 2024. We had to give them a subsidy this year, but they should break even next year. Fuel will now be managed by Motor Pool. Previously, fuel has been managed by Fleet. And finally, the budgeted interest income increased $5.8 million over FY 2023 due to higher interest rates. It's always hard to predict what next year will hold, but we're not thinking it's going to come down much. Next. These are the annexation amounts that were put into the budget after the annexed area was passed. We had revenues to the general fund of $4.2 million, revenues to capital of almost $3 million, and expenditures to the general fund of $1.8 million. One thing I would like to bring up is when the budget was done, the sanitation contract was put in at $1,051,262. As we all know, the contract this morning was passed for something higher than that, so that will need to be addressed. And I've got a couple of ideas on if y'all would like my opinion on that, but you know, that hole can be filled. Next. This is a slide number 8, page number 8 shows the motor pool funding detail by cost center. And it adds down to an acquisition cost of almost $15.3 million for FY24. Overhead and contingency in motor pool is 4.6 million. Next. This is the general fund balance projection that I believe, William, you would like to talk about at some point, and I'm happy to do that. The fund balance as of July 31st is 137 million. We have a budgeted loss for August and September of 7.2. It's going to come in at something different than that, but that's what the expected budgeted loss is. That will give us a net of 130 million as of September 30th, 2023. So if we start with that for 2024, and then per this budget, the 2% reserve is 6,649,097 less the carryover from unassigned. Sorry, that should be unassigned. Fund balance is 5,365,402 less an estimated assigned and non-spendable fund balance, which is for inventory and prepaids of 7.5 million. Then we subtract the estimated 2 months reserve for 24, and we get 68,885,409 would be the projected unassigned fund balance if this budget worked out exactly as planned. That, in a nutshell, is the general fund projection. There is one other thing I would like to talk about that is not on a slide, and that is you all received the vacancy report. This came out of Munis. I ran the Munis report on August 20th. Separated the general fund from the other funds. So in the general fund, we have budgeted approximately 1,938 and a half full-time positions. And on August 20th, according to Munis, we had 1,794 full-time positions. So in the general fund, we have 144 and a half vacancies on that date. This is a snapshot in time. For instance, in the accounting department, it shows 3 vacancies, but those people have been hired, but they have not, one of them's come on board, but they have not hit Munis yet. But all 3 of them will come on board in the next 2 weeks. I wanted to give you an example of, it's a snapshot in time. We have people coming in and going out constantly. All right.
You ready?
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll start with Mr. Carroll.
What's the overall budget? This is only a piece of it. What's the overall number 3? What's the overall city budget? 300 million?
Yes, for the general fund, the revenues and transfers in is 332,454,737.
So this fund balance, what's the brought forward that we're talking about? This fund balance, what are we bringing forward from this 22, 23?
We're bringing it forward from September 30th, 2023.
What's that amount? Where is that shown in these numbers?
Well, it's going to be the estimated amount, and it's going to be the $130 million.
All right, so this is the estimate brought forward, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then why are we taking the reserve for the next year out of that number? Why are we taking?
Well, we have to keep that reserve. That's why we're doing it.
I know, but why take it out of this number when the reserve should be part of the budget receipts from the next year? See, because this is showing her $30 million. Next year's budget does not. This is money on top of next year's budget that's brought forward. Next year's budget should be equal to less or plus the receipts from this previous year. So if we're bringing money forward from this year to next year's budget, then next year's budget. It's not
bringing, this is all about fund balance.
I'm I'm asking a question.
Okay,
Right.
I'm trying to answer
If
it.
we're bringing forward $130 million, right? if
Well,
I'm-
it's just there, yeah,
If I'm doing a
it's
budget,
there.
I'm doing a
We're not
budget.
using that $130 million.
If I'm doing a budget,
Mhm.
and it's from October 1 to
Sure.
September 30th,
Mhm.
then I'm budgeting based on that year's receipts, right? From-
No, we're budgeting on the current, okay, in FY '24, we're budgeting on FY '24's receipts.
That's correct.
Right, and this
From
130
October-
is our savings account.
So, all right, so my question is if this is my savings account,
Yep.
right,
Mhm.
then why am I taking out the 2% reserve mandate for my savings? Why am I taking out the assigned fund balance? Why am I taking out the reserve from our savings? Because those numbers should come out of the next year's budget.
This is next year's budget.
But
That's what
this
we're
is
talking
money being
about.
Carried forward from this year. So why are we taking?
The
it out of this
130
year's
is the balance at September 30th. Everything after that is FY 2024.
budget? Well, this money will be FY 2024 when it moves forward, correct? Yes. This
Well,
money-
but it'll be an accumulation of prior year's savings.
That's my point. So why are we taking our reserve and all that of these savings numbers when actually those numbers should be based on the future budget and not money that we already have in the bank? So you're making your reserves
Let me
and everything
handle
out
this.
out of current money. Why are we doing?
We're trying to show the, if you want to come down to what the projected unassigned fund balance is at September 30th, 2024.
Okay, hold on.
You have to start with your beginning balance.
Let me try. Let's do it this way. So the estimate is at the beginning of the fiscal year, we will bring forward $130,296,888.
We're not bringing it forward. That's what we estimate that it is.
Right, that's what you estimated it. Estimate,
That's-
if your estimate is correct, this
right.
is what you'll bring forward.
Exactly.
Okay? And then out of fiscal 24 revenues,
Yes.
you will take the
No,
$6,640,000.
we'll add the 6 million,
Right,
because that is like a mandated savings.
I understand, but that's coming out of the FY 24 revenues, right?
No, she's showing it coming out of 130.
I'm showing it being added to the 130.
It's being added to the 130.
This number up top,
It's in forced savings.
this number up top, budgeted August to September activity, that's the 132,69, correct?
What do you mean 132.69?
Line number 3, fund balance.
132.96,888. Yeah.
All right, the bringing forward, it says
Mhm.
projected beginning balance, which is 130, that is into next year, right? So
Yep.
that is going, so overall, next year, we would take a mean of the previous 2 years to determine what the overall budget would be for the next year in receipts, is that not correct?
No,
No.
we use the actual 12 months.
So we'll use the last 2 actual 12 months. or
No,
whatever.
we used,
12 months, right? That's right, same thing. So
Okay.
we use that number to project the next 12 months,
mhm.
right? So that number is a certain number. What is that number? That number should be 300 million.
No, it's, total revenues and transfers in altogether is 332 million.
So that's just from October 1 to September 30th of 24.
Yes.
So this 130 number would be in addition.
It has nothing,
Right.
it's your savings account. I don't know how else to say it.
So-
This is revenues and expenses.
I'm with you, sir.
Okay,
So if it's my savings account and everything.
but it's not income.
And where that, so
Okay,
if it's my savings account and everything that is my budget for that year is determined by my revenues from this 24 year coming up,
mhm.
then why am I taking all of my reserve money Why am I taking everything else out of the previous year's savings?
No,
Well,
she's
we-
adding it in.
I'm adding in the 6 million because that's like
The
mandated
6.6
savings.
million is
We
coming
are
out of
going
the
to take-
FY '24 revenues, as
Yeah,
it's
we are
required to
gonna
do,
use- we're
William,
gonna
as it's
use-
required to do under law.
We are going to use the 5.365 million to fill the gap in this budget
Why?
because we have a gap.
Okay, 7.5, why are we using that in this budget?
That is an estimate of the assigned and unassigned. You will always, in your fund balance, you will always have unassigned and assigned and non-spendable. And the assigned and non-spendable are for things like prepaid assets and inventory. So we can't spend that.
They're obligated
So-
but not spent.
Right.
Let me make my point.
No, I'm trying to answer your question. But so we take it out because at the end of the year, we're going to have that. Now, that's an estimate, the 7.5,
So,
based on what it's been, for the past few years. Then the 2 months reserve is our own 2 months of expenses that we say we're going to keep in the fund balance. And that's how we get to the 68.
I understand, but again, why is it coming out of the savings number when it should be coming out of the next year's budget? The budget
No, because we're actually projecting fund balance,
receipts.
which
So,
is on,
my question is simple. If we look at an anticipated receipt next year, somewhere around $300 million, right?
332, yeah.
So where is this 130 showing in that number?
It does not.
So
It does not.
It's the balance that's sitting out to the
It's
left.
the leftovers.
So-
It is the leftovers.
So why aren't we using our projected next year number to come up with the numbers for reserve we need, and also these other numbers, as opposed to taking it out of our savings?
We're not taking it out of our
Or
savings.
using our savings to show that number.
I am trying to show you what your unassigned fund balance would be if this budget was adopted.
So in essence, we have $130 million out there that we're using to secure next year's budget.
No.
All right, so again,
W-
then why?
We are only using 5.3 million of surplus to secure next year's budget. And that has to do with, we are giving an extra amount to capital improvements to make them whole.
I'm still confused on the reserve amount. Right?
Okay,
Okay, yeah, look, we're gonna, let's move it.
Our budget is $300 million halfway. How much that is in reserve? 2 months?
yeah, 55 million.
So would that not come out? of-
We don't take it out. It's just not available to spend,
So it's not available to spend.
right?
And that would come out of the next year's receipts, not available to spend.
Mhm.
So if it's coming out of the next year's receipts, then why are we showing it?
Well, it's not necessarily coming out of next year's receipts. It's coming out of the total fund balance, which is the same thing as equity.
So-
Maybe that part is better. I don't know.
So we're taking it out of the money we have now, hoping that we can replenish it going in the future if there's a problem. Is that what you're doing?
No, fund balance is an accumulated number over all the years and over, next year through September 30th. It's an accumulated amount.
We're gonna move ahead. If you'd like to go spend some time with Ms. Sapp separately and go through this, then that's good. But what's your next question, Mr. Carroll?
So, I really don't get it.
Okay,
I don't get it.
Well, let's
When I
spend-
say I don't get it because, I don't know if the way these things, last year I let it go, and I made a point to tell the administration, everybody in here, I'm letting it go this year because I didn't get it last year. When I was here 8 years ago, this didn't exist.
Mr. Carroll, I'm gonna ask you to take this up separately with Ms. Sapp.
I'm happy.
For a clear
Okay,
delineation.
can you come see me?
Because I can't explain this to People are asking.
Can you come see me?
Yeah, I'll come see you.
All right.
What's your next question, Mr. Carroll?
Only go, because I'm gonna have a whole lot of questions when it comes time to budget time, and maybe a whole lot of amendments.
Okay, Mr. Reynolds?
The $2.3 million going to the school board or Mobile County Public Schools.
Yes.
What's that for?
It's part of the intergovernmental agreement. That's part of that 10 million overall.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
It's an installment for it.
I got you. Yeah, that's what that agreement said.
Yes, it
Go
does.
back here. I'm not going to try to get all my questions answered today.
But if you want to send us an email with your questions, we're happy to answer anything you got.
The engineering expenditure for, or engineering total, looks like it decreases by $200,000, approximately 170.
Come out of the department.
Yeah, engineering total.
Okay.
It'd be helpful if everybody
It's
had
15.
questions, it'd be helpful if you gave
I'm
the
sorry,
page number.
page 15. This is engineering and development administration total?
Just
Or-
engineering, right?
Yeah, under engineering, the section, I mean, engineering overall is increasing by 400,000, but this particular category in engineering, which it says just engineering, looks like personnel drops a tad and operating drops a tad. I guess how could that be?
Well, it's based on the budget that engineering turned in, so I'll analyze it for you
Sure.
and give you those differences.
Okay. Urban forestry, it appears to be essentially level funded with 5% increase in salary.
Is there a question?
Well, I mean, we're shorthanded in urban forestry, I believe, so this would be
There
an
are
area where
4
I would be,
vacancies in urban forestry.
How many?
4, I believe.
4. Okay. All right. And then
Yes.
the increase in community centers, it looks like it's increasing by about $1 million from last year's adopted budget.
Okay, I'll find out why.
Why that is? Okay.
Oh, Shonda's here. She can speak to it.
Well, let's hear it. Hey, Shonda.
Hello. So the engineering, Nick has done some restructuring of his department. So with some staff that he basically took off, that he could not hire, he took off and he's reconfiguring who's doing what. So that made a difference. For community centers, which is in Parks and Recreation, last year we were given $500,000 out of ARPA money. And that covered after-school programming, summer camps, and teen programming. Because that was ARPA funds, we actually got $2,000 left in this year. We've spent all of that, and so they were giving us the money in our budget to continue that same programming throughout the rest of the year.
Times 2. This is $1 million.
It did also, there's a lot of staff, so that whole 5%.
5%.
The other thing that happened is the survey, salary survey that they did. A lot of staff in community centers were extremely underpaid. And so some of them got 7%, 10% boost just to be paid accordingly.
Okay, and parks maintenance, it looks like it's decreasing a bit. How can that be?
So we have,
Less parks to maintain?
no, sir.
Okay. Reducing the quality of maintenance?
No, sir.
All right, let's hear. That's a joke.
All right, Dan. So one of the things we do is we staff up for the mowing season. We always struggle to hire that. So we do attrition as a big part of that gets cut off because That's what you'll see when the staffing. So come March, we try to hire about 40, 50 people to mow. We never get to keep that same 50 because of the turnover. So we hire 10, 7 quit or we fire them and then we re-up. We start cutting the numbers down to actually try to do the actual and depend on our internal staff. So it went down in probably personnel, if it's the right number.
This golf course one is still on here. I know I brought this up.
Hold on.
Yeah, this is the fun part.
I think Ben's the only one who wants it, but if you all want to see, these are the increases for the golf course. The first document outlines what the competitive rates are. And then the other document actually shows what the increase will be, and that will be starting first of the year. So they're working on a campaign program now to start to compete. What's funny? So they're putting a marketing campaign together to communicate the increase of the prices and what that's going to look like for each individual. And we're talking to the advisory board to actually help with that communication as well about the increase of the prices.
But on on page 22, this reflects the same amount of revenue, $1.4 million. So it doesn't illustrate that increase in revenue for these rates.
Yeah, that's based on what they turned in.
So we should
When
modify
did they decide to do the increase?
in January 1, I think you said, right?
No, she was saying, when did they have that
Oh,
conversation?
okay.
It was after the budget because it was during the transition. So it was already submitted.
Okay, so can we modify that to reflect the rate increase, the revenue? And then the other one on this Isaiah City Golf Course is that it shows fiscal year 23 adopted budget as 487,923. I think we amended that budget to reflect 341,400 as level funding.
Nope. This is the 23 budget. It started off at 621 and it ended up at 487.
Okay.
Okay, so we just didn't show the amendment.
I got you. And then we're going to increase them another however many thousand, which is likely part of the 5%.
That was the 5%.
That's all I have currently.
They turned in a level budget until we added
Sure.
the extra 2.5.
Well, I'm excited to see that they're increasing their rates and they can make some much needed improvements out there at the golf course.
We would like you to do a video as well to promote the increase of the golf course. Don't ask me.
Thank you. Thank you. President Small.
Question, I see that McKibben Place, why was they?
Why would they
McKinney.
increase? They asked if they could be increased, and so they were at an odd amount. We took them up to 25,000.
Are they planning on any projects this year or?
I don't know of any specific projects. They have been level funded for years at that.
They are the fundraising. What did we just recently help them with?
Yeah, we just helped them with a bunch of money. McKinney Place is the only women's shelter mostly, and the need out there was tremendous.
For years, they've been 17,240, and we increased them to $25,000.
They could actually use people to a grant out there. They didn't ask us for much, but they needed a big time. I think I talked to Jim about that. So
So we're getting both of them.
The other part to that was when we had to open an emergency shelter for the cold. The only people who we could not find accommodations for were women and children. We had a lot of places for men, people that would take men, but no one took women and families. And so that was a conversation as well, that if we did it, we couldn't place be able to provide services for that population. We literally opened Texas Street for only women and children. I think we got 2 people that came in and that was it.
So it's far more expensive for us to backfill for the kid. We'd rather just give them the money, get their capacity up.
I believe the two people that the street were a woman and a child, and she stayed in her van more than she did inside the building.
Councilman Small.
That's all.
Okay, Councilwoman Gregory.
I don't really have any specific questions, just was looking through and, seeing some of the increases, which I was happy to see a lot of those, on the performance contract side and a couple of new ones. I saw Opportunity for Entertainers has a contract this year. So maybe they won't have to come to us for so much discretionary money this year.
I was thinking about that by myself.
Pardon me?
He's still gonna come, but you did see that we did fund the
Yeah.
botanical gardens.
And the botanical gardens, yeah, that's an important one because it's been coming out of my CIP every year. So they're doing a great job out there. They managed, because of the contributions that I was making through my CIP, they've been able to match that. And they are working on some more grant opportunities to grow the gardens and make it self-sufficient. So they're just doing a tremendous job, I think, and I'm glad to see that. No, not really anything necessarily on page 24, Celia, Public Service and Safety, Exhibit 3. I just don't know what that is. I didn't see it. We've got, I think, $75,000. No,
That's capital.
I just didn't know what that was. And if I'm looking at it right, the stormwater, the MS4 has gone down to $75,000. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, that's part of the capital budget.
Where are you, Gina?
This is page 24.
She's looking at Exhibit 3, which is actually on.
Yeah.
Well, you've gone into
Exhibit
capital. We're not in capital yet. We're not in capital
Oh,
yet.
sorry, I thought we were just asking questions.
No, this is just on the general fund.
Sorry.
Just on the general
That's
fund.
in the variance column, by the way,
Jumping ahead.
increasing by 7.
Okay, any more questions on the general fund? Mr. Penn?
Thank you, Chairman. Cost of living adjustment, how often we do that? That-
Often. We've done more cost of living than we have merit raises
Okay.
since I've been here.
She's actually correct. Prior to 2014, I think we went 7 years with no cost of living adjustments. And so we've been trying to catch that up, which is why the compensation study came back so bad, is we were just so far behind. So given the inflation, what we worked for was a 5% cost of living adjustment. If you remember last year, y'all did 2 of them. You did them, one in April and then you did one in October because of the skyrocketing inflation rate. And then we were able to build in, or Celia was able to build in a 5% cost of living for this year. And that's the same as the county. They're doing the same thing.
Take effect immediately or what?
October, first pay period of October.
All right. On the page 9 of the PowerPoint presentation you gave for the general fund balance projection,
Yes.
we have the 137, and then the budget August from September activity, like 7 million
Right.
plus.
Projected a loss.
Okay, all right. So that's where we're projecting the loss for the month of August and September. Okay. And then with the projected, I haven't subtracted, so I'm just looking at numbers.
Sure.
With the 130 projected beginning fund balance, that mandate, is that 6 million subtracted from that 130?
Not until we get into 24.
So on this,
On this, it's added.
it's on here, it's
It's
added.
added.
Okay, so all right,
Yeah.
so that's
Yeah,
a
no,
plus.
it should be added. Yeah, you
Okay.
can.
Let me,
Not communication skills.
so what Basia is doing is balancing the general fund budget. And when we added up the budget, when you add in order to balance the budget, to get to the 137, we had to take 5,365,000 out of the surplus or general fund unassigned, move it into the general fund. But then when we added in the 6% reserve, which is the $6,000 number, I'm sorry, the 2% reserve, that's the $6,000 number,
$6
$6
million.
million number that you see up there. That went back into the unassigned fund balance as a reserve.
Okay.
So
And
it's really just entries that we're making to balance.
We would have made $1 million with this budget, if this budget happened exactly the way we planned it.
we'll make $1 million over the 24 budget,
Yeah.
24. All right, so the 5 million, is that added or subtracted?
The 5 million is being subtracted.
Okay, and then the 7 million is being,
Subtracted because it cannot be used.
okay,
It cannot be spent.
gotcha. And then we got the estimated, so then the 55 is subtracted.
Yeah, so
Correct.
that's
Correct.
2 months of expenses.
All right,
Which is what we want to keep.
okay,
So it's always been a component of the unassigned fund balance. Okay, the 2-month reserve. But I actually had Celia show you that part of that reserve or part of that unassigned fund balance is the 2-month reserve without knowing it was going to cause this much confusion because it's probably the first time it ever showed up there.
yeah, that's what, because usually, it's, you know, you don't have.
That's
to
right.
add,
But it was because I was trying to get her to show you how that fund, what's in that fund. And so 55 million you can't use because it's part of our 2-month, and then the 7.5 million and the 5.3.
And these
Okay.
are just all estimates.
Okay,
Kind of work out differently.
yeah, it may, I mean, I understand that, but I was just making sure.
That's my fault if I caused the confusion because I told her to show you how that money's earmarked.
It's Mr. Penn's turn. This is Mr. Penn's turn.
Okay. The Mobile County District Attorney, I know we give him 500. Then we give money in 23.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
okay,
but it wasn't budgeted.
okay.
It wasn't in the adopted budget. It
So
was
when-
subsequent.
And how much was that? Was
$500,000.
$500,000.
Yeah.
And so now we budgeting for $500,000
Yeah,
to
because
get.
we know we're gonna owe it. It's a
3-year
three-year
intergovernmental. 3-year.
Okay.
The county did the same thing. They're doing $500,000 a year in order to catch up the COVID backlog. But in going through we did the same thing for the courts. Some of y'all might have been here for that when we did that, when they got in trouble because of budget cuts. This is to catch up the backlog in the courts. We were able to go to Montgomery and get the courts funded so the city got off the hook with the courts. But we've been unable to secure funding for the DA's office at the state level. And we think it should be the state doing it. We don't feel like we should be doing it. But we have to prosecute these cases. We had one guy sitting in jail awaiting trial for 7 years. And so we just got to do a better job.
So that 523 that came out of our reserve. They'll show that in the, I don't,
Well, right now, it's just part of the
It was
budget
an amendment to the budget.
okay.
last year.
All right, that's it.
Okay, Mr. Woods.
So I guess one question, and I'm dead. There we go. Just one question I had was, on the traffic engineering side, saw bringing 6 more folks on, or budgeting to bring 6 more folks on. I guess kind of the feedback I've seen is, we've, people out, fix the locks and do the work. I'm assuming we're gonna. I'm assuming that part of that 6 is hopefully hiring more people to get out and fix everything. Is that, right, I guess, right. My question is are we going to get more people out on the street fixing traffic lights and all?
That's a question for
Okay.
Jennifer White, and LaShonda wants to take it.
Okay. Okay. And then,
I don't want you to, I think you're reading this wrong. This is funded positions. And this is current, I believe, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, actual positions. And so what you're looking at is our inability to fill positions.
okay. That's,
But we would like to see those positions filled.
okay.
They are funded.
Okay. Okay. All right. And that was my next one. That's it for me.
Hey, Celia, I have a couple of questions.
All right.
On page 13, police and fire pension. This $551,918.
Yep.
Personnel and operating, what is that? that's not the contribution to
No,
the
no,
plan.
no, that is, there's a cost center that has Mary Berg and Kathleen Scott in it right now, and they're actually going to hire an accountant one. And it monitors and runs the police and fire pension. It's just.
So
for that.
this is our cost of just administering the police
Yes.
and fire pension plan.
Yes.
And where is, and I may have even seen it, where is the contribution?
Okay, the contribution, the extra contribution, because there are contributions made through every
Right,
cost
through
center
the-
with
through
sworn
The
officers.
the regular annual contribution is contained in the police and fire budgets, right? And so, it's,
Right, with the sworn officers, yes.
Right.
And that's not pulled out. Then we
Right.
make an extra contribution that is shown on page 19. And it is estimated that it will be $12,751,208 in
Right.
24.
and
That's up slightly from what it was budgeted at for 23.
Yeah. I think it's important. How long is the estimate until we have paid off the unfunded liability?
I think it's 27.
Yes, in 2027. The unfunded, there's two components. There's the
Right.
normal cost of the
Right.
plan, and then there's the unfunded. The unfunded last payment is the original unfunded balance comes off in 2027.
But I think it's important to remember that if the stock market takes a big tumble, then both of them will go up. Both of them will go up. The annual contribution and the piece to pay off the unfunded liability.
That's right. And I think we're still operating on kind of a 5-year smoothing, so the city doesn't get hit all at once with that type of stuff. But the same thing happens on gains, is that we spread it out over 5 years to help offset losses, future
Yeah.
losses.
Okay.
Okay.
Then on page 14, Gulf Quest, our expenses associated with Gulf Quest have gotten larger.
Okay. Matt Anderson is on his way over here, and he can answer those questions in just a few minutes.
Okay. Then on page 20, $75,000 for the Big Ten Mayors Association. What's that? I know what it is. Well, what's it for?
It really is, y'all are aware that they actually legally created the Big Ten Mayors Association. And so every one of them has a pro rata share to fund that for hiring of lobbyists to push something like the internet sales tax bill. We used them on Anaya's law to help get that over the finish line. And that's just the pro rata share of doing the business in the best interest of the Big Ten.
Right. But I noticed this is the first year we're budgeting for this.
Yes, it is the first year we're budgeting, because we want to make sure that, it's funded, less stressful if you put it in the budget.
Right, exactly right. Okay. Then, hold on for a minute. I don't want to beat up on Ms. Gregory, but what are we doing with the botanical gardens? This is on page 21.
The Botanical Gardens has been funded in CIP through GINA, and this year we've taken it to operating where it belongs.
And my argument was, we have a lot of city facilities that we give a lot of money to. This is a city facility that I felt should be compensated, or
It's like Gulf Quest. It's a,
contributions provided to them that were at least consistent with others. And it's only $150,000 compared to what we put in a lot of these other facilities. So they are steadily fundraising, getting grants to try to match the money that we are given. And the only reason they were able to get a couple of grants was because I continue to put that $150,000 every year into their budget. And so.
from your CIP. Yeah.
From my CIP.
Yeah.
And, they matched it because of that.
Okay. Then Mobile Sports Authority, additional $50,000. What's that for?
So kind of like what happened to Parks and Rec, when you get the one-time ARPA money and you give it to someone, they go out and bring in more events. And so they did the same thing. So it was a matter of either cutting out a lot of athletic events or funding those athletic events going forward. And so they asked for that. The other half, it's actually twice that. The other half is coming from the county.
Okay. And then at the bottom, we're keeping the Senior Bowl flat. We're keeping what's the deal with the Lending Tree Bowl? I thought we were, are we still under some kind of contract with those people?
Just a performance contract. We're out from under the 20-year contract, whatever they had before. It's a year-to-year negotiation with Lending Tree. If you recall, that contract was 1.15 million per year.
Right.
So we have scaled it down, and we finally got it down to 500. Talking with them, if we go any less, then the event would probably go away.
They were supposed to pay us back our contribution.
Yeah.
Up to, what is it, 100,000.
They were supposed to, the original contract had the city fronting 1.15 million.
Right.
Once we fronted it, they were to go out and get sponsors and take the sponsorship money and return it to the city. The first, one of the years I looked at, they returned 900,000 to the city, but they got to where they really weren't finding any sponsors. And so the city was basically on the hook for almost $1 million.
Well, they had no incentive.
That's right. You don't have an incentive when it's just paying it back
They had
later,
no
right?
incentive. I'm just kind of curious. This is a rhetorical question, doesn't need an answer. I'm curious as to whether we need 5 football games in the city of Mobile. But that's just, like I say, it's a rhetorical question.
Do we have any numbers on revenue generation from?
Economic
development?
impact, yeah. Danny runs those. We can get Danny to send y'all.
Mr. Chairman, can I address?
Sure.
So which ones?
He's been talking about lending, Teresa.
Well, it's now the 68 Ventures Bowl, and years ago, I think we did a sort of an estimated economic impact on it. Years ago, it was about an $11 million economic impact. But as you've noticed with bowl games, attendance has been doing this over the years. So it would be some less figure than that. I don't know what the figure would be from last year, but it's still a good economic impact, just like the Senior Bowl, just like the Gulf Coast Challenge, hopefully the Port City Classic. All these obviously bring people to town that would not normally come any other way. And so
Danny, do you have hotel stay night comparison data that would show us how many hotels are filled this one we're
Right.
talking about? The
economic impact we don't ourselves, we do an estimated economic impact based on the number of visitors, based on how many overnight stays.
But how do you know how many overnight stays if you're not looking at the hotel statistics?
Well, we are to a point, but that's only partial. That's only partial information. So you have to extrapolate some of those numbers out. For instance, in the Gulf Coast Challenge, we try to get the zip codes of ticket buyers, as many as we can. Now, because a lot of it's paid by cash, you have to estimate those numbers. And because it's a Friday, Saturday, you would estimate, for instance, 10,000 people in town for 2 nights. And we assign a formula to that we've used for 11 years now. So again, a lot of this is estimate. Even if you had everybody fill out a survey, it would still be just an estimate. So, and it would cost a lot of money to do that too. So again, for instance, last year, we thought that around $10 million for the Jackson State game when Coach Prime came through, based on the number of people, based on the ticket data we got back from the Gulf Coast Challenge. But it's never going to be 100% accurate. It's just going to be an estimate. And that includes room nights too, because there's a lot of leakage, because some people will stay in West Mobile and never tell the front desk why they're in town. We do surveys after these kind of events with Visit Mobile, but again, it's just an estimate.
Yeah. And Danny, I love you. But it's still data coming from someone who has a dog in the hunt.
Well, For the Gulf Coast, I get what you're saying. The Gulf Coast Challenge, for instance, we do survey the hotels, and we probably will with the Port City Classic. And again, what the hotels give us back is a partial reflection of how many people are in town. And then we have to estimate from that. But that's sort of what we do for those two games, which those are the two games that we're the most involved in.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure. I think
Let's
the
say,
chamber may-
we'll go back around.
I think the chamber may have a way of kind of following up on that. No? Okay.
Okay, we'll come back to Mr. Carroll. You have any follow-up questions, Mr. Carroll, on the general fund?
Well, I don't get it, but Jim has explained it. The intention wasn't put there, from what I understand. So that explains a lot of what's supposed to be there, but still yet, I need to.
No, we'll work on it, William.
Do the math work, because
Yeah.
it's supposed to be that math, move that point.
No.
We'll figure it out.
It is correct.
I know, but the placement of it, as Jim has said, it was just put there to see the process, but.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
In best practices, you don't see it there, and I would have thought my chairman would have recognized that too, but we're figuring out soon. I'll get it. I promise
Okay.
you we'll get it.
Okay.
Ms. Gregory?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. So, no, I just wanted to follow up with what Joel was talking about. And when we have these big weekends, do we have anything that shows in our tax collections bumps in in the way it's collected, just to show us, such and such weekend, we noticed, tax receipts were up a certain percentage, then they go back down, sort of a thing, so that we can see per weekend when we have these events in the city, really kind of what the bump is. And I know David and them do their formulas and they figure out room nights and all of that, but I'm just wondering.
I think probably the best way to really get an idea of what's going on during events, even Mardi Gras, is to compare the pre-COVID periods when you had Mardi Gras to the receipts there versus when we had no Mardi Gras, or we had no Lending Tree, or we had no HBCU games. And then you can see the true impact on city revenues under that situation. If you'd like, actually, I'd like to know that.
That'd be very interesting.
Pardon?
Especially if it shows spikes in certain weekends, like with Mardi Gras, or like Senior Bowl, all the other games.
Ms. Gregory, to your point, in this past cycle year alone, just take the Sports Authority, for example. We used to do 2 tournaments here a year, right, Danny? When we first started doing the AAU tournaments, I mean, Vernon and I did 2, Port City Rain and yeah, they did the other one. There were 2. With this ARPA funding, Danny has bought in USSA, AAU, and also YBOA, which in turn, if you were to go downtown on a weekend, I live down here, so I'm downtown all the time. If you go downtown on Dolphin Street on a given weekend with all those tournaments here, you couldn't get into a restaurant downtown on a Saturday to watch a football game or basketball game on TV because of the impact of these tournaments that we're having on our downtown economy. So this extra $50,000 has worked miracles for us in bringing in these different types of travel ball games during their seasonal period. So it's a huge benefit to us as a city, both in tourism dollars and in revenue for downtown merchants. Now, the total overall impact, we probably don't know yet, but for the number of people that are coming to our city for these tournaments, it's been, paramount. It's been a big bonus. So it's a good thing. And I say if we could do more, because it's really been a plus to us downtown for that little $50,000 that we've added to the budget.
Well, I'm not arguing.
But I mean, if you want to see it, the best way to see it is to actually be out there and to be in the community, actually see the difference between this time when we were not spending the money and when we are spending the money. It's been a huge plus for us when we've put up $50,000, and it's gotten us a whole lot more in return downtown.
Any other questions, Gina? Any other questions on the general fund before we move on to capital?
Regarding the headcount summary.
Okay.
And the additional budget for community centers, $1 million. what's on page 17. Shows 48 vacancies part-time.
Uh-oh.
We got budgeted 74 part-time. Are there any new positions associated?
No new positions. A lot of them are seasonal because we hire, so after school is seasonal, they're not permanent. Summer camp is seasonal, it's not permanent. Lifeguards for the swim season as well. So we do a whole wrap-up real quick during the summer.
You get a lot of, depending on when you pull this report, you're gonna get different numbers.
Okay, and I don't see the police vacancies on here.
They're in the different, this is in alphabetical order. I can send you the police by itself. I've got that.
Or fire. I don't see that.
I'll email you police and fire. But they're in the different cost centers. Scattered. Yeah, it's in alphabetical order.
That's a mistake.
Okay. Ms. Gregory, then Mr. Carroll.
On the Gulf Quest, are these all city employees now, or do we have?
Yes, the ones in this budget are city employees.
Do we still have other employees that are not city employees, that are paid by the board?
I don't believe so.
And so everybody's a city employee now. Is Mike Dow still,
I think he's on the board still.
he's on the board? Who's the director?
Yeah.
Who?
They're looking for a new one now.
Well, I think that's about to happen. I can't say anything because I don't know if the mayor's heading the appointment, but I think.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thought Matt was coming.
Well, it's gonna,
He's stuck behind the train. What was the question that you had?
well, I just wanted, the budget, what we're giving Gulf Quest is, the funding we're providing Gulf Quest has gone up every year. And now it's about twice as much as it was at the beginning, whatever it was, 4 years. So whenever Celia's numbers start. And, I just wondered why it's going up so much. Has the attendance gone up at the same rate that the funding has gone up? It's been a long time since we've looked at Gulf Quest.
Okay.
Do understand that we're kind of hopeful with the changing of the director over there that we see a different result. And so, but it's in the works right now.
Wait a minute, Mr. Carroll.
Just a question. So I don't know if this is gonna come under the general fund or if it's gonna come under the capital.
Okay.
But for the collective or the collaborative, it's gonna need a line item for operations. Is that general fund or is that capital?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Linda, will that be general fund or capital?
What is the collective?
There's some monies for capital improvements, for neighborhood revitalization, new construction, property acquisition, all that stuff. Does there need to be a line item created under the general fund?
There will probably be capital, but I know that. But just from the types that you get in the probably sure.
Well, is this where you're talking about allocating part of your CIP?
Right, if you remember, I've got that $1.1 million left over,
It's capped.
plus the $3 million for the fire department, and plus the $1 million from this year. There should be a separate line item in the budget showing that for, I guess, District 2, because it'll go into the program. Do we need to create a separate line item for that?
Well, you can create a project right now that exists in your business.
Yeah, it's a project that says District 2, and then some name on it, we don't know what it is. But what they're gonna have to do is give us a detail to that in the CIP plan. I don't have CIP information yet. Did you say something that's in the CIP?
You have to create a project.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't show in the budget as a separate line item, is what I'm asking.
It's,
Okay, so, but the program I was hopeful would be citywide for every council person to contribute. So you said that they would have to be a line item for all 7 districts?
in their CIP,
Within, yes.
within their community.
We can just show me how to do it.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a question.
I didn't-
Corey?
Oh, it was a follow-up, to Chairman Joe, days, about the Gulf Quest. Is it open full-time or is it like partial hours?
business hours, I believe, like regularly.
There's something, it's something,
11 to 4 every day.
Anything else on the general fund?
If anybody has anything else, please just email us your questions. Email me.
Appreciate you, sir.
I appreciate it. Billy.
Okay,
And I
Celia,
want you to, I want you to be happy.
okay,
Now that I know that it was supposed to be down there.
okay, let's move ahead to the capital
All
fund.
right, I'm
Thank you,
going to get
Celia.
help with capital. Aurelia's going to go over.
Good afternoon, all. I'm here to present a brief overview and summary of both the proposed capital improvement fund and the convention center funds. Those documents on page 10 through 13 of your book, of your little packet. First, I'm going to go over the capital improvement fund budget. This year's capital improvement fund budget is $75.2 million, primarily funded by the 1 cent sales tax in the amount of $53.3 million. Other revenue sources are gas tax, lease and rental, room tax, property rental, and business license fees. In FY 2024, we budgeted $14 million in transfers in and prior period carry forward. They include $6.4 million from transfers from general fund, $7.1 million transfers from the convention center, and about $500,000 or exactly $554,000 from prior period carry forwards. As you all are aware, most of the expenses are already earmarked or allocated before the budget process began. The detailed distribution of that is going to be on her page 12 of your packet. Debt service and transfer accounts are for $23 million, and that accounts for a huge chunk of the expenses. 1 cent sales tax extension added $36 million, and that's $28 million for the CIP program, or $4 million for each district, $4 million for municipal buildings, infrastructures, and other city capital. And then the newest category we have is the $4 million, up to $4 million for city infrastructure and capital expenses of CBG eligible census tract. That only leaves about $15 million for public service and safety equipment, software, small programs, and economic development. That's kind of in a nutshell on the capital. Unless someone has a question, you want to do capital first and then the convention center?
Let's do,
That's.
okay, just, I want you to make your entire presentation
all right.
first, and then we'll go
The
to
next, we're
questions.
gonna have convention center budget, and they do correlate, so we have a lot of transfers from, so that's kind of good. This year, convention center budget is $13.2 million. This is an increase of about $1 million. 500,000 is attributed to the room tax increase, which you'll see that that's pretty much a correlation between that and the 500,000 increase to Mobile Bay Convention and Visitors Bureau contract obligation. You see that. The other is very small. We have a few other little increases in insurance and equipment, but that's just basically due to the rising costs. My presentation is really, really short, so any questions?
Okay, thank you, Aurelia.
Uh-huh.
Mr. Carroll?
Answer my one capital question.
Okay. Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, well, yeah, so,
And you want me to explain that to you too, real quickly?
well, I mean,
The reason I need the detail on it, because you'll notice in the budget that these, each district is budgeted at the total amount, $4 million. So when the CIP program is done, they'll give me a detail. So right now, I don't know what the $4 million is made
I guess
of.
the question I'm asking is where is that $1.1 million part in this budget that I have in contingency?
It's not in the budget. It was done in the previous year's budget. It's on the capital books, but it's not in the current year's budget. It's
So project.
Mhm.
So it would show this money bought forward,
Mhm.
come down. So this is new money.
This is only this.
So, I hear you. So that's kind of the same question I was asking in the general fund. All that new money, then, you know, why are we showing that old money based on new money? Is why I was asking. So you're not showing my $1.1 million of this new money, but we could show it as bought forward amount. You see what I'm saying? That's money we're not even showing this money.
Yeah, and it's a little different with mine, capital carry forward. Celia zeroes out at the end of the year, so her things.
Yeah, but the fund balance is Yeah, the fund balance is carried forward
Well, we
too.
have an education on that out there.
Okay.
Because that.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
let that go right now. So,
Okay.
I mean,
all right.
now you're talking.
Well,
about-
your 1 million is in the account. I have it in the account
And
saved.
$3 million for the fire department, well, we're not
I
gonna be
don't
able
know
to.
nothing about that.
So what we need to do is pull District Two's capital projects, and then you'll see where all that money is. That's unspent, yes.
But so we wouldn't create a line item in the budget for this year's program.
Capital doesn't roll over every year. Once you fund it and put it in that project until you complete your project.
And then if we don't use it, it will be a budget amendment or amendment for previous.
It'll
year.
stay in there until you do something to move it.
Awesome, all right, let's.
So we don't have the discretion to move it by council ordinance.
That, I was just saying, when we get to figure this other little piece out, just catch me up off the
So we could.
Y'all got jealous.
Mr. Reynolds?
Gulf Quest debt service now shows as zero for fiscal year 24 proposed budget. Does that mean we are debt free?
No, that's the 400, that's not, oh, that's the 400,000 a year that we did for 4 or 5 years. That was a different obligation. So I'm not sure of any other expenses they have.
They are still in debt, and we're kind of working through how to deal with that. And so, but the city's obligation's over with.
Yeah, that's right. That's the city's obligate, what we had committed to give them, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
400,000 a year.
Allows for some sort of interior or
No.
The exhibits,
displays.
the exhibits.
Exhibits. This was a debt they took on for exhibits.
Right.
That's now retired.
But we don't have to show any additional line items as far as payment or security for the operational cost.
We do show their operations.
We do show the operational.
And that was a contractual debt. That's the reason it was showing, but it's been paid, the 400,000.
There is a significant decrease in public works equipment. It's basically $40,000 this year. Do not plan to buy equipment for public works. Is that correct?
What's the good thing about this budget and for the last couple of years is every piece of equipment that the departments requested is included. So if they didn't request it, we don't have the information.
But public services is now $1.7 million.
And that could be some of the changes, but that's the way that they requested it as a public service item instead of a public works item. So there could be, because those departments kind of overlap.
Yeah, so keep in mind, public works is the overarching.
Mhm.
Public services is obviously just where behind, area where they need supposed to be, who that department.
So they could have requested it under public service instead of public works or whatever. But I usually use it exactly the way they asked. But again, for the last 3 or 4 years, we've given them every piece of equipment that has been requested.
I'll just bring up, it's just ancillary, it's not really, it's just an analysis of obligations in a 5-year budget plan on page 28. Projected revenues in fiscal year 2025 for the convention center fund. I would expect that we'd see revenues increase as a result of maybe a lot of Mardi Gras organizations. Instead of using the civic center, we begin to use the convention center, so I just expect their projected revenues to increase.
Now, the projected years, we're just doing a slight, I think, a 0.01% increase on it because we don't know. We're required to have a 5-year plan, but we don't have a lot of data to support the additional years. So every year kind of stands on its own. We do our best guesstimates for the future years, but the 24 years is the only year that we have all the data for.
So then I guess that really depends on whether or not we proceed with the renovation.
Oh, yeah, that's true, yeah, but we're gonna have, I guess they'll still be able to use it.
Okay, so those people should.
That's all, Mr.
President Small?
I just want to make a comment, and I'm looking at this pie chart, CPG eligible census tract. We need to really plan a CIP committee meeting soon, so we can really, define how we can spend this $4 million in each of these, these tracts.
sort of activities will, Jasmine is gonna start scheduling with all for, the CIP.
All right. That's all.
Gina?
Yeah, just to follow up what Shonda was talking about, since Josh in particular and I have new areas coming in, and our budgets and our projects were already set prior to annexation. So we really need to start looking at how to spread some of that around and make some changes in our projects.
Yes, and so I've taken some feedback. I know there's an area that CJ doesn't want, there's an area that Josh Woods does want, there's an area that Ben wants to get rid of. So when I get a chance, I'm gonna go back and redraw these maps.
Well, I didn't say redistricting, I said CIP budget.
I know it was supposed
Well,
to relate.
I want y'all
But
to.
it is related, yes.
Yeah, but once we redistrict, then it balances y'all out. Right now, Josh is out of whack, but what I've assured him, if there's a need in the end, so his CIP really ought to go to District 6 as it existed when they elected him. So anything that's needed in the new area really ought to be an obligation by the administration, is the way I see it, in order to meet those
Until we
needs.
redistrict.
That's exactly correct. It's unfair to him to spend money outside the area that elected him.
So the same can be said for Kings Branch and Orchard Estates.
No, I'm just kidding. We'll do that. You already got us on botanical gardens. And so.
You know, because they're all, and there's an email that has already gone out to a certain group saying, what is your wish list in all of these annexed areas? So they're going to be coming back, wanting parks, wanting this, wanting that. We already know a lot of speed bumps, and we've already been told that engineering bought the speed bumps, but we're going to have to repay engineering for $5,000 per, speed bump. So I'm just trying to figure out, with the budget that I have set for all my CIP projects, how do I then incorporate going into these two new areas to do some projects for them as well? We just got to make some tweaks.
And again, if there's some more immediate needs before redistricting, if you'll just get with me and see how we can fund that.
I mean, the money will be there. It's just a matter of assigning it to a specific project and getting them done.
But again, to use your CIP money outside of the area that elected you, it is what I think is not fair to your constituents. So if you'll come to the administration with a need outside of that area that you're currently representing, then we'll find a way to fund that for you.
Well, they would probably say with that extra $1 million, you wouldn't have it if we had not annexed it to the city. So therefore, you should be spending some. But I get what you're saying.
I think the quicker we can complete the redistricting process, the better off it'll be. Okay, I'm under duress. I'm going back to Mr. Carroll for a minute. Speak now. Speak now.
Ray, I was looking for the Civic Center numbers. I don't see any in here.
Because we don't have any in the current budget. Most of the civic center expenses were done through a resolution allocating unassigned fund balance. There's about $40 million done earlier during the year. So it wouldn't be in this current budget. It was an allocation done earlier this year, FY 2023.
Yeah, but doesn't the Civic Center have additional capital expenditures before the renovations?
Any expenses, we do have a $4 million category that I have a list of some items. I'm not sure if there's any specific, but the Civic Center included in that. But that $4 million that we have for some facility items, and I'd have to pull the details.
I didn't even see any operational costs for the Civic Center either. I know, but
We do a transfer to the Civic Center of 1.9 million. We kept it level this year, even though it might close, but it was just decided that we would keep it level, so that's what it is.
in previous,
On page 19.
on page 19, so I missed it. In previous years, it was showing as a loss every year of somewhere between 1.9 and $2.5 million a year. That was to cover the operational loss. So still yet, I don't see any capital money for capital improvements money or upkeep of the facility while we're trying to get to the point of restoration? So- Uh-huh. Should we not have a line item in here that covers, I can't hear you.
It's got a $4 million.
What, that $4 million fund is not specific for the, so what's the plan to maintain there?
So there's no planned improvements at this point. What we're doing is emergency repairs to the facility.
Well, that's what I mean, Jim.
Yeah, then
Where's,
we have to find that money because it's not a budgeted item because it was an unforeseen, like a chiller going out. And so that's what we're doing is just keeping the facility operational until we figure out what we're going to do going forward.
under what?
Real estate and asset management.
They have general funds for upkeep of the city's facilities, but it's not specified. So if there's a project, they might have it and we're not aware of it. It's just we give them certain amounts, and that's what they do.
I don't remember, and that was on page 19. I don't remember seeing that.
In the 4 million. Yeah, it's included in that 4 million that y'all allocated.
Everybody, Jesus, y'all know I'm going short circuit up here. It's too many numbers right now. I can't add and subtract that fast anymore. So you're saying that it's going to show under the operational budget, under real estate asset management.
No, what I think what Shonda is saying, if you look at the capital budget, I was clicking on page 10. Oh, there's a $4 million line item, that's a part of the city, that's 1 cent sales tax. It says city facilities, improvements, and other capital projects. It's an overall, it's all under your 4 million, whole lot, 4 million, on your budget.
All right.
One of the 4 million has funds in there, about a couple $100,000 for facilities management to do city's facility work on city's facilities, and another one for like mechanical maintenance or something. But these are some general projects, and they're not specified as to the work that's going to be done.
So in essence, we don't know what we might spend. We might spend 20. We just got $4 million in the line item, and we'd have to find the money.
$4 million is broken down in details as to what, I do have the details.
So I'd have to ask you for the detail sheet to know what I'm looking at.
Yes, but one of the line items, like Sean was saying, is facilities maintenance and
Okay.
stuff. Because this, and it's managed, it's mechanical equipment, replacement boards and all that kind of stuff, but unforeseen, it's 400,000. It's one of the line items. It's basically a facilities contingency for city facilities.
Corey.
Thank you,
Page 24, economic incentives. We're moving from $3,750,000 to $8 million. That's a major.
I had to walk out to deal with the contracts, but didn't Britton cover those?
It was that, not them.
He did.
Yeah, but he didn't put the dollars and cents
Yeah, it
on it.
wasn't, yeah,
Okay,
dollar
those are,
amount.
those are the projects that we set aside funding that may go forward in fiscal year 24 that Britton briefed y'all on in
He only
executive session.
briefed us on one.
One, yeah.
One, there's actually at least two that I know of.
He only
Name
briefed
of
us
it.
on one.
He must be, there's one that's about to happen.
Right.
And then I think there's another one that's set up for later on in the fiscal year. And I guess it's just not gotten to the,
Well, the
Okay, we gotta be, everybody be careful, because
yeah,
that's
the,
right.
yeah, the unnamed one he talked about today showed 2 plus 1.8 plus 1.6. So that's 4.7 if you add all the numbers together. So that may be what you're looking at.
You know, what I could do is get the communication from Britt and we could meet individually on that if you want.
Big deal.
All right.
let's,
For last year, we had to do another large one for $5 million that,
okay. This is Mr. Penn's time. Go ahead, Mr. Penn.
All right, and then just trying to get clarity on page 28. So I see the convention center fund is that showing the $29 left from?
Mm-hmm.
it's pretty much break even. It's 29 is the only unallocated amount for the year.
Okay. All right, just checking. All right, thank you.
Mr. Woods.
And I'll stay on that page too, just for clarification, that going back to what you said, the increase of 250,000 on convention center operations, that's just cost, just increase of cost.
It's just costs, multiple costs going for several different expenses, and we're just trying to keep up with the actual costs.
And then my last thing was the additional 500,000 to the CVB, or that's on contractual.
That's contract of 33.5% of the actual collection for the previous year.
Okay.
And we had to increase it, we increased it 500,000 last year, and still had to add another 3 into this year. So we're adding another 500,000, so that hopefully we don't have to come back to y'all during the year. We probably still will, but it won't be, which is a good thing because it means that.
Yeah,
We're doing good.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's it for me. Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Chairman. So I'm so sorry earlier. How long now has the convention center been operating even like this? What, 4 or 5 years, 6?
Yeah, and it's kind of forced, even, you'll notice that there's any remaining funds, which is in that transfer at $7 million.
That's what I'm asking.
We transfer it to the capital because we do all of the capital expenses in the convention center.
Uh-huh.
And we pay the debt, which is kind of combined into our normal debt now. So the funds, their money is pretty much just sent back up to the capital.
So
It's paid out of capital.
in essence, I mean, you asked my question, this is a forced even over there. So basically, if we didn't operate in this manner, that it would be somewhat of a tug over there.
Well, these are expenses, most of them are expenses associated with the convention center because we do a lot of projects and do a lot of work at the convention center. It's just that all the expenses are captured in the capital fund instead of the convention center.
Instead of convention center fund.
And it was easier. We changed it when we started refunding all the debt.
Yeah.
Because they started commingling things and there was really no way to separate it anymore. So instead of paying the debt over there in the convention center, we just put all the debt and everything in the account.
Well, I guess what I want to get down to is that the convention center is operating positively now without us. That's in my mind, this is forced. So the convention center really isn't operating positively.
Well, really, the revenue is not.
Oh, hang
The
on.
revenue over
So-
there is not mandated, it is not breaking even.
It's still not breaking even, but the numbers are showing it breaking even. That's why I'm asking.
Well, that's because we give them so much extra. And that's what I'm saying, it's really, the revenue that's going to the convention center really doesn't have to go to the convention center. And we probably need to update some ordinances, we've been working on that today, so.
What's the loss over there?
I can get it for you, I can get it. I don't have
It'd be
to-
tough to guess, but the last time I looked at it, it was about 5 million.
Per year?
I can give you a spreadsheet on it.
That may have been their code. I'll check.
Well, I just remember a little while ago that we were looking at about 3.1 per year, and now you're telling me that it's almost double that.
I'll get
Let me
you
give you the
exactly.
actual number. I was telling you that it wasn't breaking even, it's in the millions.
On page 24, what is hexagon?
An RMS for the police department, and Tyler didn't do what they needed it to do. And so they went with Hexagon. They were in the implementation phase and they were failed to get this product up and running. New Orleans just recently canceled their contract with Hexagon as well. So we're going to cancel, but we're leaving that money there because another RMS is now looking at it and they're about to give us a quote.
Okay.
It was a placeholder.
It's a placeholder because they need a records management system. It's just that they didn't feel like Hexagon had delivered what they needed.
Corey?
Yes, going back to the convention center, that's the reason I kind of asked, because I just saw $29. And so I was just wondering, are we waiting to, like, how it works of them going in the hole, like $5 million? Are we just giving money at the end of the year? Like, how we covering that?
General fund transfer.
Yeah, well, they're setting aside, we're funding the money that's going to take to operate that facility but we're funding more than what we should be funding. They're not generating the revenue to be self-sufficient.
Okay. So it's monthly, because I mean, it just is weird. It's just $29. So what I'm saying is, like, each month, are they calling, or we already got that budget for that amount for that whole year?
The maintenance of the citizen operation is one of the lines on there, it's like $1.6 million, I think. And what they do is they give them, the county manages that, they give them about $200,000 a month, to put a regular operation, and then it's adjusted at year as to what, based on the documents that they receive.
So based on their needs of what, then that amount is given.
And it's recorded in that line item, because it's a convention center operations, convention center budget.
So if they was bringing more money in, then we wouldn't give that amount.
That's correct.
Any additional questions on the capital fund or the convention center fund? Okay, I'd like to come back, Matt. My question was on Gulf Quest. We've gone from 954 million in FY20 to 1,044,000 in 21, 1,001,000 in 22. The budget was $1,358,000 in 23, and now you got in here $1,437,000. What's happening?
Thank you so much. The long and short of it, a good portion of it is, due to personnel costs, as you could probably see. I don't know if it's listed in here, broken down the way we typically keep track of it, but a good portion of it is personnel. The original personnel number you might see from several years ago is when we first took Gulf Quest on, and we really reduced the personnel considerably. There were tons of folks working there when we took it on, and they obviously didn't come onto the city. We kind of kept a skeleton crew just to keep the building running. As we kind of continued, for a long time, Gulf Quest was reporting directly to Chief of Staff at the time and then to my predecessor, Michonne. And they tried to add more folks onto the staff to increase the ability of the building to generate revenue, mostly through events. So, and probably any given year, they would make $100,000, $115,000 in event revenue, and then maybe $60,000 to $70,000 in admissions. So thanks. So the subtotal for personnel, if you look at the most recent comparable year, I would say 21 is probably the most recent comparable year. We were spending $486,000 on personnel, and that's up to $767,000. So that's a good portion of why it's gone up considerably. But if you, like, for instance, if you go back to 2019, 2018, those numbers are very difficult to compare because that was
Right.
Yeah. So those years, at one point we had one employee working in the building, and the other folks who were working in the building were being funded through other departments just to keep the place running. So with that being said, I missed a good portion of that earlier because I was sitting and waiting on the train while I was at Gulf Quest to come over here. We do have a new director coming on. The mayor has made a selection. It's a nationally known person in the museum field. And I look forward to presenting a 5-year plan to all of you, hopefully later in the year. So that's about the best I can say for right now with regard to where I think the museum's going. But she's already identified several revenue opportunities that are more than going to cancel out what we've seen in terms of increases here over the last couple of years.
I'd like to see, if you don't mind, the actual for 22, the projected for 23 on income and expenses, head count, and visitors.
Easy.
Okay, thanks. And then one question, I guess this is really a question on motor pool funding. Celia. So this piece you gave us on page 8 of the handout, the overhead and contingency, is that the rental payments?
The total is the rental payments, and rental payments are split between acquisition and overhead costs because motor pool is fully subsidized by all the cost centers that use them.
Right. So let's just take let's just take police department. So the total contribution, $6,199,724. That's contained in the police department budget for this year. Is that right? And then the projected, so $4,670,000 of that will be used for acquisition in the fiscal year, right? And that should roughly replace, I think the cruisers are what, on a 5-year rollover? Is that right?
That will cover 75 vehicles and they,
Right. And then the 1,529,000
is their share of the
of the motor pool, Okay. Fuel?
No, but the fuel is funded differently.
But you changed that this year.
We did, but it.
But this is the garage, right? This is the garage and the people that are working in the garage and that kind of thing.
Well, it used to be, fuel used to be funded through police. Now it's going to be motor pool, but it's not in this calculation. This is separate.
So we're,
Fuel.
It's an in and an out. So
It's in the police department budget.
right now it's complete. Right, but for 24 it would be in fuel and then motor pool.
so now the police department is fleet.
No, I'm sorry, I thought we were talking about fuel.
Yeah, we are.
We are. So it'll be in the fuel will be in the motor pool line item.
Everybody that has a vehicle, they are charged for their fuel. They will pay back motor pool for their fuel next year, where this year they pay back. It really has no effect.
I know, we're just trying to understand where it's come from, where it's going. Okay. Any other questions on the proposed budget?
Just following up on, Ransom has the additional $100,000 this year. How many more crews do we think that is going to provide for? I know we got, what, 2 crews out now, so that may be a third crew?
I don't know the answer to that. I'll
Yeah.
let Shonda answer.
And then we've got some city employees now. I'd just like to get an update. I think the council would like to have an update on the number of employees that have come on board through Ransom and what they're doing, that sort of thing, because it's really working out to be a great program for the city. And, just like for everybody to,
It actually will be in a performance contract to add additional crowd. That's not to supplement the current program, it's to expand.
yeah, to expand it. Yeah, right. And then also, Jimmy, I know we're starting doing some new things that we haven't done before, like instead of filling potholes as much, we're going to go in and mill and actually do the longer stretches of asphalt. Is there a specific line item for that, an amount of money? Are we going to take that out of our CIP? How's that going to work for each district?
The administrator, if you remember, we moved somebody over to a project for that.
Right.
To do emergency repairs for that, to cut out the stretch of street, 60 feet of Lydia Street. But it can be used as, roughly the same line item as your district.
I was just wondering if it would be sort of like we do the sidewalk repairs, where we each put in a certain amount of money, for sidewalk repairs and ADA, if that would be the same sort of thing, if we have a lot of areas, to cover.
Yeah, I mean, and that way you get the point.
Yeah.
Where you want to see that money spent.
Okay.
William,
So,
did you have another question?
no, sir, keep it up, Jeff. I do want to ask for permission for a meeting with Celia through the administration, so I can get a better handle on this before.
You don't need permission.
Yes, you do. I can't talk to you, rest all that stuff without going to the administration first. So, I think Thursday about 4:30, 5 o'clock, somewhere there, I might be able to get it there. If not, it'll be before next Tuesday, if I can just call and schedule some time. This is a public hearing on Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
So before the public hearing and before we get into our next meeting,
Sure.
I want to have a better handle on how we're moving previous year's money with a fund balance and an unassigned fund balance and a general fund, because in my mind, in municipal accounting, there's no such thing as unbudgeted money. I mean, it just doesn't happen in municipal accounting.
And just for clarification, it's the directing of employees that can be a problem. If y'all need information, that's not.
I just gotta figure it out, because again, in the world we live in municipal accounting, there's no such thing as surplus. It's just unbudgeted money. So where is it? That's
Unbudgeted money and assigned money is the same.
In municipal accounting, there is unbudgeted money.
Yeah,
There is surplus.
well, we
I'll
got-
show it to you in the act, or I think I can explain it.
yeah, okay, let's figure that out.
Mr. President, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
to Councilwoman Gregory's question regarding repairs to potholes and stuff, I believe that would live on page 15 as public services maintenance. Is that correct? If somebody was to,
They do have.
Employee was to be-
They have asphalt crews.
that would fall under public services maintenance,
Yes.
which is at $13 million, which is an increase about $500,000 this year.
But we also had in the CIP program, those type projects. We do street, we do sidewalks, so we have a lot of things that are broken down by districts in your CIP program.
Well, as much as I'd like to agree with you on that, I'm afraid I don't. And it's not because it's not necessary or needed, but it's a maintenance function of a city. It's not a capital improvement, it's a maintenance function, and, those should live in the general fund, as,
They do have asphalt crews in there.
sure.
Okay, if there are no additional questions, I'd like to remind everybody of our timeline, which is next week on September 5th. We'll have the public hearing. On September 12th, this committee will meet again for further discussions. We'll take no public comment. I would urge everyone, all members, who have amendments that they intend to offer to the budget to have them ready on September 12th or shortly thereafter, so that we can go ahead and vote on September 19th, and your amendment will either get 4 votes or it won't get 4 votes, and we can move ahead to adopt the budget. Okay, thanks everybody for being here.
So because of the contract, the garbage contract, we'll come to you with a recommendation because we budgeted at the lower rate.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll bring that to you.
You're gonna propose, this will be an amendment to the budget you will propose.
Correct.
Okay.
I'll just work with Celia and bring it up. So
Okay.
we'll probably have an amendment as well.
Budgeted less than any of the bids.
Thank you all.
Oh.